Hello everyone! So this is my presentation on literacy engagement and independent reading. And initially I had chose to look at reading comprehension and see how literacy engagement enhances reading comprehension. But as I collected my data, I realized that I focused more on independent reading. And so I looked at the behaviors of engaged readers and unengaged readers. My methods of data collection were video observations, interest surveys, and iStation assessment data. So at the beginning of the year, I did interest surveys, and I gave these surveys out to my students to just try to gain a better understanding of them and their interests and what they liked and what types of books they liked, so that I could provide those books within my classroom libraries. A lot of the questions included, do you like to read? Do you prefer fiction or nonfiction? What are some of the books that you've read lately? If you could own a new book, which kind of book would you like? Those types of things. And so that helped me to gain a better understanding of my students. And as you can see in the graph underneath the abstract, here is the student responses to one of the questions that I asked. I had 14 students in my class, so 13 out of 14 said they were interested in how-to books and books about animals. So, as a teacher, if I am wanting to teach a, reading strategy, or if I'm looking at something, I'm going to pull those types of books because more of the students in my class are engaged in books about animals and how-to books. So, my overarching research question was, what does literacy engagement look like during independent reading? And my secondary research questions were, what instructional strategies promote literacy engagement? What are the behaviors that demonstrate literacy engagement? And how does literacy engagement enhance student reading comprehension? Now, going back to my methods, I did video observations on these students. So they would rotate to their independent reading center where they would have 15 minutes to read each day. And I would set up my iPad and video these students and look for the behaviors that showed me that they were interested in their book and that they were engaged, and the behaviors that showed me they weren't. Now, at the beginning of the year, it's no secret that more students weren't engaged. A lot of them were staring around the room, they were talking to their friends, they were just looking at the pictures in their books, they weren't actually reading the words on their page. So 2 instructional strategies that I implemented were the reading mats and the jot lot. Now, these reading mats gave students it kind of gave them a system for their reading. So they would make a stack of their books on one side. They would pick up the book on the top of the stack, read through it, and then place it on the other side, then go back to the stack and get another book. This eliminated students, again, just staring around the room. When they transitioned between reading different books, they would, again, stare, they would talk, they would do whatever they could just to, stay distracted, and it was very evident that they were distracted. So I used these reading mats, and I introduced them, I believe, in October, and they did help a lot, as I'll talk about later. But the jot lot was also a way that I implemented a reading task, but also student choice, because in my findings, I realized that student choice is critical, and when students had the choice to respond in the way that they wanted to respond, I got better work after they had read. So on their sticky notes, they could write anything. If they had a text-to-self connection with their character, if they wanted to tell me about the problem the character faced, if they wanted to, if they were reading a nonfiction book and they found a text feature, if they wanted to tell me the purpose of the text feature, they could tell me anything that they wanted, but after their reading, they had to write down something about what they read. And this also helped with engagement because it held them accountable. And when they were held accountable, they knew they were going to have something to do, so it caused them to be more engaged in their reading. As I collected my data, I realized that there were 6 themes that I used kind of for coding. So it was student interest, student choice, reading tasks, engaged reading behaviors, unengaged reading behaviors, and reading levels. And going to my results, I realized that, student choice was critical. When students got to choose where they wanted to sit, when they got to choose the books they wanted to read, and when they got to choose how to respond to their reading, they were much more engaged. Reading tasks helped enhance reading comprehension because it held students accountable for what they were reading. When students had a task to complete, they were much more engaged. Engaged readers, they made meaning of their text. They tracked their reading with their fingers. They sounded out their words when they got to an unknown word. They made connections through their text. They had a lot of thoughtful things to put on their sticky note for their reading tasks. So it's important that students are active readers, interacting with the text and improving their comprehension. And looking at my iStation data, there was a strong correlation between students who were engaged during independent reading and students who scored high in the comprehension component of iStation. So these higher level readers did better on their comprehension component, which is not a super surprising find. Going back to my research, there was someone who had talked about reading to learn versus learning to read. And this was something that, was always in the back of my head during my data collection and, just during this research in general, because students who are learning to read are students who are getting frustrated when they're getting to words they don't know, and they may just, give up, and they aren't as engaged necessarily. And students who are reading to learn know the benefits of reading, and these are the active readers. They're the ones that are making meaning of their text. They're the ones that are making sure they're understanding what they've read. So all of these students who are reading to learn, again, scored higher in their iStation component of comprehension. So thank you for listening, and this research was super fun. I learned a lot, and I'm super excited about taking what I've learned into my teaching career. So thank you for watching.